everyone, welcome to Growth Podcast, where we have honest conversations about growth, curiosity, and becoming more intentional humans in the digital world. Today's episode is for one thinkers, readers, and anyone who believes books are more important than just information. They are tools for transformation. Today I'm joined by Kawuki Mukasa, an author and public theologian whose work explores the intersections of human purpose, philosophy, science, faith, and the future of humanity. Kauki is the author of Cosmic Disposition, Reclaiming the Mystery of Being in the World, a book that challenges us to rethink the way we place ourselves at the center of every story. In this conversation, we talk about the art of reading, how books shapes our personal development, and why what and how we read deeply influences our identity, our beliefs, and the kind of future we imagine. We will also explore human centered thinking, curiosity, humility, and Karaoke shares a powerful book recommendation for anyone ready to expand their perspective. So, if you've ever felt that reading changed the way you see yourself or the world, this episode is for you. So, Karaoke, welcome to Growth Room Podcast.
Thank you very much, Favor, for having me at your show.
Yeah, you're so welcome. I'll be asking you some few questions and yeah, just to keep the conversation going.
All right.
Okay. So before that, can you just tell me about how you got to um love reading? Yeah, read. Yeah.
Well, as a child, I'm now a 67-year retired
Wow.
clergy. But when I was a child, I was an introvert. I wasn't good at mixing, and that meant that I needed to be alone most of the time. When I got involved in groups, I found that I was putting out so much energy. So because of being an introvert, I eventually developed the practice of reading, and I loved reading biographies of famous people and also novels.
Okay.
And this was back when I was in my early teens, and so because I developed that habit, it caught on, and then I started what, imitating writing because I was reading a lot. I also tried writing, and so that's how I developed into this whole world of literature.
Wow. Interesting. So you mean you? So are you still an introvert up to now?
Well, I'm still an introvert by nature, I would say, but I have outgrown it because
Okay.
I've spent most of my life in roles that require me to speak and to engage people. So I am no longer an introvert, but I cannot entirely escape what I would call my nature of wanting
Okay.
to withdraw.
Yeah. I get that. So, was there a particular book or season of reading that changed how you saw yourself or the world?
You mean when I was a child?
Yeah, was there a
Like
particular book? Was there a particular book or season of reading that changed how you saw yourself or the world?
I loved reading biographies, particularly of writers, because I was fascinated by people who write. And my father had bought a huge book with all kinds of uh, biographies of all kinds of people. And my intention was to read all of them. And so there were actually two volumes. And I remember there was a time when I felt like I might have read each and every biography, at least the big ones. So I loved biographies because they were stories about real people that stretched my imagination.
Okay, interesting. So, so now, based on the topic of this conversation, what does reading mean to you? What does reading mean to you?
Well, still, at this point, reading means a lot of things. First of all, it depends on what I'm reading.
Okay.
If I'm reading a newspaper, I'm basically wanting information about current events. So that's a no big deal there. If I decide to try to read fiction, I am trying to escape, to be entertained, perhaps. I'm not. I don't like literary books very much. I like books, fictional books, which are entertaining, rather than which are trying to um, make it difficult for me to understand. But if I'm in my element, I like to read philosophy. So I'm a person who wants to ask big questions, and so I like to read people who write about big themes, about our existence and about the world, about where we come from. Yeah, those are my interests.
So now that brings me to ask, do you think people read for information or rather than transformation? I do think people read.
I don't know about other people. Personally, I must say I don't usually read to be transformed. I read either to be entertained, I
Okay.
read to be informed, as in what is going on in the world. I read to escape sometimes. Just if I'm in a situation and maybe I'm bored and I want to, uh, you know, elevate my myself. But I never read a book to say, okay, let me read this book so that it may transform who I am. No, I don't. I don't normally do that. But that is not to say that other people don't.
Okay. Okay. I get that. So that is to say that like everybody has their reasons for reading. So depends on the person.
Yes,
Okay.
that's
Now
true. Yes.
now in what way do you think reading contributes to personal growth?
What? How reading contributes to what?
Personal growth.
Can you elaborate on that? Like which groups?
Okay. Now you said you read books for entertainment and all that, but one way or the other, I feel like books also helps like in self improvement, and some persons read because they want to like broaden their vocabularies and all that. So I'm just asking, what other ways can really contribute to personal growth? What other really think?
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. That's all right. Yes, personal growth. Growth. Yeah. Well, you can read. I think for me, I would see it differently. I may
Okay.
read to be entertained. I may read to be informed. I may read in order to escape. Uh, but in the course of reading, I'm developing myself. I'm gaining that personal growth that you're talking about. Because after reading the book, I'm not the same person I was.
Yeah.
So um, I would say that reading or personal growth is a side effect of the exercise of reading. Um, but I wouldn't, personally, I wouldn't go and start reading because I want to grow personally. Um,
Yeah, I get that. I get that. Now, voila. So, if you have to recommend a book, regardless of whatever the reason is for reading, what book would you recommend for somebody that you feel like it's a must read?
a particular book,
Yeah, you
can
have
I?
like
Oh,
a recommendation.
I think I would because there's so many books at my age one has read a lot of books and it's difficult to mention just one. But if I may just maybe talk about authors that I find very that I lean towards, and then someone may want to go and see what books they have written. Would that do?
Yeah, yeah.
like like the authors, yes. I'm very much interested in the French authors of the post-World War II period,
Okay,
people like Albert Camus,
okay,
people like Michel Foucault and Jacques Derrida. I like those authors. I'm also interested in Jean-Paul Sartre, who is also French, but a little bit older than the persons I've talked about here. And in contemporary time, in these days, I enjoy the books by Yuval Noah Harari, and perhaps the book that I would really recommend if I were to pick a book is *Sapiens*. I think it was published back in 2014, and it has been a blockbuster seller around the world and translated in many languages. And it talks about human beings from the beginning to the present, and so I would recommend that.
uh, uh,
*Sapiens*.
I really like these books that you mentioned, and yeah, they're kind of rare. Very, I'm not
Sorry,
familiar with them. Rare.
the books.
Yeah, I'm not really familiar with them,
Mm.
but I'm going to look them up. Thank you.
Yes, but sorry, your voice is breaking up. I didn't quite hear what you asked.
Okay, okay, okay. I said the books that you just mentioned are quite real, but I'm going to look them up. I'm not very familiar with them.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes. The authors I've talked about have
yeah,
written several books, and many of their books are very interesting. I like them.
wow. I'm just going to check them out.
Yes.
Okay. So now, what's one reading habit you think one can develop? Like sometimes a lot of us want to read, but at the same time we get distracted, we lose focus, we don't
Mm.
like have like a proper habit on how we can just finish a book. So what would that one
Mm.
habit like you just like recommend or suggest that we can just yeah.
Well, it's in my case, if I'm reading fiction, I just plow through it. I try and read it as quickly as possible. If I get to like page 50 and I find the book is not going anywhere, I drop it. So I'm not one of those people who must read the book through. Um,
Okay.
I give it time, and then at some point the book must carry me, and then I will continue and read it to the end. If I'm reading a
I
book sorry,
No, I was trying to
carry
say
me.
I do that a lot, but I kind of feel that that's like a weird behavior and awkward.
No, I mean, because I'm also an author, a writer, I can understand. And so when I'm writing, I write with the intention to carry the reader through the book. That's not always possible. Um,
Okay.
but if I'm reading a book and the author is asking me to keep slogging away, even if it's tough, I don't see why I should. But if I'm reading a serious book, as I said, I like books that deal with big questions. Then I can slog through because I know sometimes it is difficult when you are writing about serious questions to simply use language that solves things quickly. So I take my time and try to read, and then I can plow through quickly and then go back and start over. Usually I would read a book about 3 times before I can
Wow.
say yes. Yes. Because the first time you really don't know what, you don't understand what the author is saying. You are just catching up with their thought. The second time
Okay.
around, you begin to see, okay, I think I know where he's going with this. And then on the third time, you really grasp what the author had in mind and what they wanted to communicate.
Okay. Noted. I get that now. Because somebody like me, I think I read once. I don't go back the second time. I just
If it is a simple popular novel, yes, reading once, you've got the storyline, you've got the plot, so there's no need to reread it. If you're reading a serious novel, you might want to read it twice to be able to get the concept right. And if you're reading a book that is serious, if you read it once, you really you will get the big picture. You may get a sense of it, but you may not have understood where the author
yeah.
was about. Yes.
Now, lastly, I want to ask, do you have like
Hmm.
a reading philosophy?
A reading philosophy.
Yeah.
Not particularly, not something that I would say that this is my reading philosophy. I like a book. If I go to a library and find a book that I like, then I can also look around, that shelf to see if there are similar books. And then when I come, I start reading the book that I knew I had gone to find, and then begin reading the others as well. So if I have a philosophy, I would say that I don't read one book at a time. I'm a
Okay.
multiple book reader.
Okay.
So I read a chapter here and then I go and read another one. So I always have about 3 books I'm reading, um, and going different at different rates. Usually there would be books about the same general topic or subject, and I would be looking at that subject from multiple angles. So if
Okay.
I if I have a philosophy, a reading philosophy, I would say I read multiple books at a time.
Okay. So, like, that. How many hours do you read in a day?
How,
Like, how many
how many
hours?
hours?
Yeah.
Well, it depends. Sometimes because I'm also a writer. When I'm writing, I usually don't read as much as I might want. I read to get the information I want in order to finish whatever piece of writing I need to do for the day. But when I finish writing, like for example, when I finish writing a book, uh, then I need some time to relax. Then I can start reading, and I read quite a lot. As I told you that I'm a bit of an
Yeah.
introvert. I don't I don't mix well. I don't go into. I'm not a social person. Although I'm not antisocial, but I'm not the kind of person who likes going and engage in conversation here, conversation there. I like to sit back and roll into a corner and read a book, and then read another book. I don't have a set or set rules on how I read. Uh, but as I said, I read multiple books at a time. More reading when I'm not writing, not so much when I'm writing. Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much. I think that will be all for